Happy Thursday and welcome to today's Veeam Tech Bytes episode. I am the Rickatron. I am live. Rickatron time is on time here in the Veeam Ohio Center, Central Ohio. And we've got our producers in Texas and another producer in Ohio. We want to know where you are tuning in from because we got this cool little application. Now, I'm joined by one of my good longtime friends. I want to introduce Chris Chowderhose. Hey, Chris, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Rick. How are you?
Hey, you know what? I'm rocking, and we've got a great topic here talking about the Splunk app for Veeam. And guess what? No slides, all demo. Now, Chris, I in the pregame here, I said this guy's just a beast. He never misses anything. He's a fanatic technologist. Chris, introduce yourself. Let the audience know kind of, your role and your expertise and such.
Sure. I'm a Veeam Vanguard, Veeam Legend. I work at a service provider named ThinkOn. I'm the lead infrastructure architect here. So I deal with everything BAS, DRAS related, and Veeam is one of the biggest things I deal with.
And you've written, if I remember correctly, several books
Yes.
on Veeam. So you're a go-to in the community. So big welcome. And, Chris is joining from Ontario, just north of me here in Canada. And I feel guilty because I don't have my Tim's cup with me this morning, but I will likely tomorrow. But, we're going to talk Splunk today. And I'm excited because I'm going to ask Felicia to push out a link to our Splunk base app listing just now. And Jeffrey, let's switch over to the screen feed. I want to draw everyone's attention to the Splunk base page. Now, Chris, I'm pretty new to Splunk, but before we get into this app listing, what's your experience with Splunk?
As of right now, when the article posted on the community from one of our legends that's when I started learning Splunk. So
Yeah.
I'm a newbie just like you.
And I got to say, it's rather intuitive because I just knew, I knew Hal Rotenberg that, was a Splunk guru and stuff. And I never played with it, but we had this great milestone that came with 12.1. And just want to draw everyone's attention. It's in the Splunk base, which is where you go get applications, right? And you can browse through Splunk Enterprise, which is what I'm going to show, or you could get into the whole business of logging in and downloading it right there, right? And we're going to walk you through in a second kind of what you need to do. But, Splunk is a very rich application. So I'm going to switch over here to Splunk here. And, I've got this installed in my lab here. This is the enterprise kind of on-prem deployment. There's definitely a cloud option as well. And, one of the things I'll see, it's really cool. There's mobile device gateways. That's really attractive. There's permissions. There's different data sources. And, Chris, I know you mentioned just you're new to it as well, but I think when it comes to an enterprise, when you have a lot of different types of data, it's really important to kind of have one, I don't want to say pane of glass, but like this aggregator of all the feeds. And, I know that you probably in your role as a service provider use a lot of tools, but there's a lot of good information coming from all the data sources in an enterprise estate for sure.
Absolutely, there is. And Splunk seems to be a really good one for logging and all that kind of stuff, especially with the Veeam app now.
Yeah, and we're going to show you kind of some I put some zingers in here because I'm preparing for Veeam on, and I'm not going to show you my cool radical demo that I'm doing, but it's kind of interesting. And there's, this is the premier app I have in here, the Veeam app. And, I can look into some of the things that I've looked at. In fact, I have installed the Universal app, which I also thought was kind of cool because there's this Universal Windows app. Go back over to Splunk base real quick, because while I was looking at when you're sharing your screen and the stop sharing button is right under that tab, it's a little tricky, isn't it? Let's see. They have these like this Windows Universal remote remote management app. Those are interesting. There's also this universal type of apps and stuff like that. So it's really, there's a lot to it. In fact, this is a good view. There's some AWS stuff, machine learning toolkit. Uh-oh, the buzzwords are coming in. DB Connect, that's pretty interesting. AD, oh, that looks pretty cool, right? So actually, there's a lot in here, and I'm sure, there's probably stuff that, I'm using Palo Alto. There's all kinds of cool things. And, it can quickly become a lot of information. I'm sure. Oh, look at that. Proxmox. Now that's interesting.
Mm.
Yeah, because we announced a new hypervisor there, right? So let us know in the comments. Are you using any other Splunk apps other than the Veeam app? I think this is quite the technologists, what do you call it, playground here. This is cool. There's a lot of good stuff. But anyways, let's go back into Splunk here. So, Chris, like did you install the enterprise on-prem version, much like I'm looking at here?
Yeah, I did the same thing. I just did it on a spare laptop that I have and then installed the Veeam app and everything into it.
Well, that's a good point. It doesn't need this full-blown server infrastructure. So if you're like thinking about how to get started, that's an easy way to start. So okay, this is bad, Rick, in the lab. I didn't actually read the system requirements, but if it shims into a laptop, that's pretty attractive. So I do have the Veeam app installed, and I'm going to show you how to get there. But let's first show you some of the cool pieces of information. And I just got word that Brazil is tuning in. Let us know where you're from, what U.S. state, what country, and now we can even separate Canadian provinces. And Chris, did you know, without looking, I could probably name all 13 provinces and territories. Now, I don't know if I could point them on the map, especially up north in the territories, but I'm pretty good for being south of the border. So, piece of trivia, Chris, I got to ask you, if you've been hanging around Crepe, you know this one. Canada shares a land border with 2 countries. Do you know what 2 countries those are?
2 countries.
2. And one of them
there's
only can count once.
Yeah, well, there's the U.S., obviously.
Yeah. See, I'm going to get you.
Yeah, you're going to get me on that one. That's the only one that I'm... Because
Canada shares a land border with Han Island with Greenland. So there's this island.
There, yes.
Yeah, there was a disputed island, so they just went right down the middle. So there you go. I'm teaching a Canadian something every day. Love it.
There you go.
All right, back to Splunk. Stop it with the jokes, Rick. They're not that funny. Bad answer from Jeff. Okay, funny. Great comments coming in on the chat. So the Veeam data platform monitoring, that is in the Splunk app. The first thing I want to kind of draw attention to right here. Hey, James from Texas. This is really cool. So first of all, I've been fiddling around with some things, okay? And I can take a look at some of the data sources. And this right away, I can recognize this. These are my separate Veeam backup and replication servers. And that's actually not exactly entirely true. This one is the Windows Universal Agent at the bottom with that type of name. I just recognize that in my environment. I got Matt Crape's 3 of his. I've got 2 of mine and 2 of Matt Crape's going on. So he was playing ball with me in the lab. And I'm looking at all the things going on, just a little over 6 terabytes of data under management by Veeam. A couple of failures a couple of weeks ago, a couple of bumps in the road. I think there was a license expired as well. And then you can see some information here. At a glance, Chris, you're a daily practitioner. Kind of an interesting view.
It's definitely an interesting view, especially when you go down a little further and you see the pie charts and all those things in there that you get to look at. So it's very, very interesting.
And I love that it's also like I want to know what messed up. I'm just going to click on that failed slice. And now I'm deep into the Splunk of Splunks, if there is such a phrase here. Now, I know this environment, but I don't really know Splunk. But what I really like is that this is really clear, actionable information. I think that here's the agent backup job. That sounds like something out of Matt Crape's log. Oh, no, that's this one. So that one wasn't a universal Windows collector. Okay, so that's the BNR server. So I can see what's going on. I have a suspicion that someone started something and didn't. This is a lab, by the way, so we're going to have a lot of interesting elements, right? Another thing that I can see, well, this is interesting, my file backup jobs. I have 233, but one of them didn't go wrong, didn't go as expected. So let's take a look here. Okay, this was my production. This is my VBR prod. So that's how I name VPS is Veeam Product Strategy. And then RV is me, and then B&R is backup and replication, and then prod is, this is the one that I play a lot with the other ones, but prod is the one that's all business. It's at the end of the day catching all of my environments. That's a good question for you, Chris. Do you do a lot of, okay, there's a lot of dynamic things going on, but then in the background, there's one backing up everything. That's what that one is. Do you do any of that?
Yeah, typically. Well, we have multiple data centers, so we have a VBR server in every data center that backs up practically everything. So
got it. Yeah, so it's like, if you think about the 3-2-1 rule kind of mindset, and then also just some other parts of the data centers or the estate may have dynamic elements of the infrastructure, kind of these catch-all backups, lack of a better word, is appealing to me. And I can see where that one failure was. I know that's I know what that is. That's a test that one of my colleagues was working on. So again, really clear, actionable information here on what's coming in. And then you can also see based on the different days and times, like the workload types, right? So you'll see, I got more than just image-based VMware backups going on and Hyper-V backups. You've got Sure Backup. Oh, this is interesting. I did a lot of scans yesterday. Look at that. Maybe foreshadowing what I have coming on my Veeam demo. But yeah, so this is cool stuff. And I love also, by the way, Chris, I can scope it to some pretty granular times.
yes.
And even like as little as 30-second windows, which, I know that there's a lot of ways you can collect data, and 30 seconds on scale is actually rather tight. It does kind of change the view a little bit because it looks like nothing's happened in the last 5 minutes, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is, definitely. Especially when it gets to the next tab that you're going to go into, the security events.
Oh, come on, don't steal my thunder.
I'm not going to try and get ahead of you.
I was just going by the all-time, I believe the Splunk app, and I'll ask Felicia to push that out one more time. The Splunk app in Splunk base has come out, let's see, I want to say it was April 25th or something like that, April 24. Big shout out to Stefan in there it is, and it's 1.0.127. Big shout out to Stefan and the Veeam Product Management Alliances team. A great milestone here. There's been a lot of buzz for this one, so we're going to push out that link on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn, and if we can, on Twitter. Check this out. Give it a download if you're using Splunk. So that's pretty cool. And then let me just kind of go and show you something to set up what we're going to do in the next part of the Splunk configuration. So I'm working on something. I don't want to tell you too much about what it is, but I have the malware detection engine, as you can see right there, with 2 hits. Okay. So I want to draw your attention to the WaterBlade and then the MouseSim system. They have been identified by the Veeam inline malware detection, sorry, wrong option, as having a couple different issues. And if you're not familiar with this, by the way, this is where it's at. Love it. So definitely think about using this. And couple of points. This costs CPU. So this right here, that's usually not the resource in contention. Well, actually, let me flip that over to you, Chris. Proxy CPU, I've made an assumption that, usually things like backup window time, storage latency, network throughput, storage latency on the target as well are the bigger bottlenecks, and CPU isn't one of the top. Is that a fair assessment?
It typically is, yeah. Usually if you have enough proxies and CPU and everything deployed in your setup, then that shouldn't be your bottleneck.
Shouldn't. That's fair. And we do have bottleneck analysis and hat tip. Veeam 1, I see Jorge on the call, can also give you some guidance on your proxy utilization. The heat maps are a good way to start. Now,
Yep.
I want to also share an interesting tip here. The malware detection exclusions, a little field tip that we had from some of our systems engineers. This is a brilliant tip. If you don't know if the malware detection will be too much for your environment, turn it on, but then exclude everything and then explicitly remove it from the exclusions. I thought, brilliant, 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 brilliant. Easy way to know that you won't have too much of a hit. So, but speaking of hit, we did have 2 hits when it comes to malware. So let's go over to this other tab of the Veeam Splunk app. And Chris, I think this is probably the highlight of this Splunk app for sure.
Yep.
So if I look in here, first of all, I'll take 30 days, which is about how much data I've got. Well, meaning I've had it, it's been in market since the 24th, and I installed it on day 1 or 2 or something. What sticks out to you, Chris, before we dig into it?
Well, just the dashboard itself, right? You can see there's critical events, there's suspicious activity that you can see. The Four Eyes one is the one that I was interested in seeing because we've just enabled all of that so that I can see, okay, who's doing what on what server.
Yeah, let's start with that. And so let me give you an example of Four Eyes authorization. So in my lab, first of all, I'm going to apologize. I've got some things down there that tells me I'm a bad housekeeper, and I'll admit it. I am. Chris, you're probably pretty organized. Anytime you see orphaned, you're like, oh my gosh, my eyes, I just can't take it. Uh-huh. But let me go to one of my non-immutable backup targets. And just for the record, everyone, I do not recommend having a backup on non-immutable, but this is a lab. So let me just take this job here, Veeam Mover. This was demonstrating our ability to move and copy backups from a repository. So that example made sense to not have it on immutable, okay? But what I'm going to actually do to illustrate Four Eyes is just delete it from disk right here. And as you mentioned, Chris, will cause another backup administrator to approve it. So what I usually do is you'll see, much like instant recovery sticks up at the top, you'll see pending approval stick up at the top here. Kirsten is my peer administrator on this lab. So this is going to sit here by default for 7 days till Kirsten approves it. But you saw there were 2 incidents that did happen. One of the things I like about Splunk here is that you can click in and get like basically the detailed log entry. So I'll tell you straight away, it is on that server because remember we're monitoring multiple servers. Interesting point here, by the way, I am on 12.1.2.172, which just updated. And so that's good to know, by the way, that the Splunk app works with the Veeam updates. And I want to see these ones down here because now it's 3. You know, it was 2 links, but it gave me 3 results. Look how quick that is. That's pretty cool now that I think about it. Let's go double check if, yeah, so it was 2 just a second ago, right? That's cool. Let's see if I can find where Kirsten approved it. So I just said, well, it's just logged that it happened here. So I don't see that it actually went, and I could probably find it. I'm sure it's in there, but anything stick out to you on some of this, Chris?
It just being able to see it and knowing, okay, who was it that was the person that did the deletion or whatever, because we have jobs and stuff that disappear in our environment and it's nobody owns up to it. So it's like, okay, who did it?
So I guess that brings up a good point. It implies that you're going to want to be logging in as a service account, not as like administrator local or anything like that. The one thing I'll actually say, it's here, this is actually, you can actually tell the difference right here. Let me double check this. Yeah. Delete multiple backups has been initiated. Okay, so that's the first, and then here the text changes a little bit. Looks like we've added in our forwarding the version numbers, what this looks like. That's a new string because the previous entries would have been on the 12.156 version, not 12.1.272, which reminds me, I should just bring it up here, veeam.com/KB4510 came out this week with a couple of critical updates, including Enterprise Manager and Veeam Backup and Replication. So you want to make sure that you're on 12.1.2.172, and that came out literally, well, it was updated today, but this was published on, I think, on the 21st. So unrelated public service announcement. Another thing here, Chris, I want to highlight here. This is going good. The suspicious here. I'm seeing a lot of these antivirus scan or malware detection hits are coming in. I am preparing my Veeam demos, so this is probably more than you would want to see in a normal environment. In fact, again, Jorge's on the call. Thank you, by the way, Jorge, for helping me coach up for what I'm doing. I kind of repeated the demo of what I was doing a couple of times last night. But this could be the blast radius, right? You see, whoa, something's happening when it comes to our security scape here, whether it's Veeam Threat Center, whether it's Splunk. I think this is awesome information.
Yeah, it's nice to see that one little peak there. It's like, okay, better go and check.
Yeah, and it puts it into, and if you click on it, let's see here, you can get into, I guess you'd have to go up here. You can always go into the, let's just go with today. I don't know what time zone I'm talking, because I think that was my last night special. So no, it wasn't. Let's do week to date. So I can zoom it in a little bit more and get these types of data points. So this is great. Yeah, you can see where it all happened, what happened. Great, great, great stuff. Awesome. All right. So hopefully you can see, and again, we'll push, if you could, one more time, Felicia, push out this Splunk base link. Check this out, everyone. If you're using Splunk, let's do a refresh. See if anybody did. Not yet. Okay. Maybe it's not instant. Forgive you this time. But I kind of walked through a couple of things really quickly. So let me close a few things and show, first of all, in helpcenter.veeam.com, we have the Splunk app, a user guide in our normal Veeam way, which really goes through the configuration and some of the supported platforms. This is really helpful, great additional resource. I'll admit it, Chris, when I installed, I got stuck on one thing, and I'm curious if you got stuck on it too. So I want to highlight something that one of our Veeam Community Hub members, Luca, wrote around configuring the Splunk app. Did you have, he talks about how to do it, but did you get stuck on the one part down at the bottom?
I don't think I got stuck at any parts when I was going through this. It seemed to be very smooth. So
okay, so you followed Luca's post as was.
Yes.
Okay, so Luca probably has used Splunk before, so that's why he caught this one important step. And one more time, Felicia, if you could pass now this URL out to the streams. This is Luca, also goes by Link State on our Veeam Community Hub, one of the Veeam legends. He walked through step by step. So if you have Splunk, or if you don't have Splunk, you can start here. And there will be a time when Splunk is installed that then you could just start to the Veeam app. So I love these kind of click-through demos that walk through the whole thing. And I need to increase my speed here, but I want to make it readable for everybody. But you understand, it's all the click-throughs, all the options. Yep. And then, start searching through your data. This is pretty cool where it starts going through the different usage of Splunk. And I want to draw your attention in Luca's post to the one part that I personally got stuck. I did all of this typical Ricketron way, didn't read the manual or user guide about anything. Down here, you will get to this one right here. I got stuck here. By default, the configuration of the Veeam app will be UDP, port 514. And I had to just go in and click that just like this right here. Like it was all set up, but nothing was working. So looks like Luca's using Zoom It too. I got a new appreciation for him. But yeah, right here, configure the data type VBR syslog. These two things, the one above for UDP and then this made the difference for me to get it working. So if you're getting started with Splunk, this is a good one to check out. So, oh, and then event forwarding. I almost forgot the syslog server within the event forwarding tab. And Chris, this is test question type stuff. You're smart. I believe we can even have multiple things here. So if you have Splunk and some other tools, you can have multiple event forwarders, if I remember correctly.
Not for syslog, you can't, no, because I had a syslog server. I had my Synology as my syslog server, and when I tried to put in Splunk, it said no, you can't have another one.
No, okay, so yeah, test question maybe. You're right, but SNMP we can have multiple. That's where you can have multiple. Okay, so there's a reason why I haven't upped my test from like V7 a long time ago. So there you go. Good to know. One syslog receiver per VBR server. SNMP can be multiple, and that's my configuration there. All right, man. Wow, Chris, time flies. I thought, oh, we don't have anything to talk about, but no, the Splunk app is legit. Big thank you, Luca, for the step-by-step guide that everyone can find on the Community Hub. Chris, as we wrap up, what kind of projects are you working on nowadays?
Well, right now I'm going through putting our Veeam services all on their own domain. So I've designed an Active Directory for that. We're doing Duo MFA for RDP and a bunch of good things for security best practices. So we're moving into the security realm to make sure everything can't be compromised.
Love those like layers, boundaries, separations. And, you know, for those of you out there, just putting those types of efforts in there are great. And Chris, you've got a vacation coming up next week. Well deserved. I don't know what we're going to do in the community without you, because, you know, you're always on there. And on behalf of Madalena, Sophia, and myself, we really appreciate you for that. Couple of plugs to mention. Next week, Tuesday, the Industry Insights is up with Kyndryl, one of our largest GSI partners, global systems integrators. And Thursday, oh boy, Veeam is coming up, and we have our very first Veeam Today show. That is actually very scary that it's 1 week away for Veeam Today. And then we're going to have 3 live streams for the Tech Bytes product. Will be Veeam Today on Thursday, and then on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, June 3, 4, 5. So it's going to be wicked. And then big note to everyone, maybe we can, there it is, Final Call 300. If you're on the fence to get down to South Florida, this code will get 300 USD off of the registration, but make no mistake, you can still register online at veeam.com for the virtual experience at no cost to you. All right. Hey, Chris, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Not a problem. It was a pleasure, Rick.
Awesome. And a big thank you to Jeffrey and Felicia, our producers, friends. I could not do that without them. Thank you both. And everyone, get ready for Veeam. Buckle up. It's going to be a ride. Thanks for watching. That concludes today's stream.